The Health Minister says issues affecting the supply of medicines have now been resolved. Lottoland begins consulting Gibraltar staff on proposed redundancies as part of a company restructuring. Travellers are reminded that Gibraltar cannot be used to avoid UK or Schengen immigration rules. Spain's largest Policía Nacional union calls for a review of treaty arrangements. And advice for keeping pets safe during the hot weather. Good evening. Health Minister Gemma Arias-Vázquez says the issue affecting medicines crossing the border have now been resolved. She has told GBC a new customs code has been generated for medicines coming into Gibraltar, which will prevent the issue coming up again. She also confirmed that the consignment of chemotherapy medication for the GHA was cleared and arrived yesterday afternoon. The Minister has reiterated that there are no concerns over current stock levels of medicine, and she spoke to Jonathan Sacramento, who asked her what exactly the problem had been.
I think the first thing that we need to say is that the truck containing pharmaceuticals is now through, so that shows that we have identified the problem and we now know what it is. So what was happening is that Gibraltar is the only place in Europe at the moment that doesn't have to comply with EU standards when it comes to British pharmaceuticals. So when British pharmaceuticals were coming through the frontier, they were given the same code as you'd be given to get British pharmaceuticals into Spain. So it was coming up with a whole raft of different issues. They've identified that. They've now been given a different customs code, so British pharmaceuticals can now come into Gibraltar with no problem. So as I've said, the pharmaceutical truck that was being delivered has now been delivered. The chemo truck that was coming yesterday came through yesterday evening with no issues, and it came through with no issues yesterday evening because at that point the issue had been identified and it went through smoothly.
You say in your press release that the issues are being resolved. That's very much present tense. Is it past tense? Has these been resolved entirely?
So the issues have been identified, and I was very cautious with the language because as I was drafting it, the customs truck was the truck was coming through customs, so I didn't want to preempt the fact that it was in. The issues have now been resolved. They've been identified. They've been resolved. Customs clearing agents have been given the information that they need. There are other issues. There are going to be other teething issues. This is a big change to the system that they had before. So there will be other teething issues in terms of the volume of the declarations, the volume of input, the information that has to be inputted. Customs agents are now, clearing agents are now working with customs agents to work through those issues to streamline the procedures as much as possible. But the two main issues that we had yesterday, which were the pharmaceutical products and the fresh produce, they've now been identified what the issues were, and the issues will not occur in future because they've now been given different codes so the goods can come into Gibraltar.
Okay, well, we heard what the opposition had to say regarding the problems, and could they not have been preempted? Is that a fair criticism?
I don't think it is. We don't think it is. In reality, what is happening is that as the treaty comes into implementation, we're seeing a document come to life. And when that document comes to life, that's when you start seeing the real issues. I also think, and as I said in my press release, what should have been done in this instance is I should have had a call. If the opposition were really concerned, the Shadow Minister for Health, the Shadow Minister for Business should have called me and asked me what the issues were. That did not happen. We can't turn these issues into political issues because they do scare people. So we cannot have a poster in block from the GSD saying that there is no drugs coming into Gibraltar because that will really worry people. We have to make sure that the message is a strong message, and indeed if we don't get the pharmaceuticals in and there is an issue, at that point by all means hit us over the head with a stick. But yesterday what we were seeing was teething issues. There was stock in the GHA, there is stock in pharmacies, and there is no need to scaremonger the population. We need to deal with these issues for what they are, and they're teething issues. Indeed, we were down at the frontier. The customs agents were working full pelt with their counterparts on the Spanish side. There's a lot of cooperation, there's a lot of goodwill going on to resolve these issues. And indeed, the issue was resolved in 24 hours, as we can see, and there is no issue.
But well, isn't it fair to say that people were already a little bit worried before the opposition got involved?
There were concerns, but the press release that we'd issued the night before and the Chronicle story and indeed the GBC story said that there were no shortages, and there were no shortages. What people were saying is if this continues, there will be an issue, which is why we jumped in immediately and we sorted out the issue immediately.
Other news, Lottoland employees in Gibraltar are facing uncertainty after the company has begun consulting staff on proposed redundancies. GBC understands a significant number of Gibraltar-based roles, including senior positions, are at risk, although the company has not confirmed how many jobs could ultimately be affected.
Lottoland is understood to employ around 250 people in Gibraltar. The company says the proposals form part of an organisational restructuring. In a statement to GBC, Group CEO Nigel Birrell says significant regulatory and commercial developments have had or will have a material impact on the company's profitability. He says a number of roles may be affected, with the proposals applying only to the company's Gibraltar office. Mr. Birrell says supporting staff through the consultation process is the company's priority and stresses the proposed changes are not expected to affect customers. The proposed restructuring comes after the UK increased remote gaming duty from 21% to 40%, with further changes to online betting duties also planned. Earlier this month, Financial Services and Gaming Minister Nigel Feetham warned the changes were expected to reduce the profitability of parts of Gibraltar's gaming sector. When asked for a comment, Mr. Feetham told GBC the government had been formally advised of the situation at Lottoland and would continue to monitor developments while remaining in contact with the company.
Claims that Gibraltar can be used as a route into Spain by people without the correct visas have prompted an official warning. The government says entry requirements remain unchanged and must still be met.
The government says travelling to Gibraltar cannot be used as a way of avoiding the immigration and visa requirements that apply to Gibraltar, the UK and the Schengen area. It says anyone who requires a visa must obtain one before travelling and will not be permitted to enter Gibraltar without the necessary documentation. The government also stressed that being refused a UK visa does not give someone the right to enter Gibraltar or travel onwards into Spain. It says the arrangements governing movement through Gibraltar are designed to facilitate travel while maintaining immigration and security controls. Travellers are being urged to rely on official information and check the visa and documentation requirements that apply to them before making their journey.
The Royal Gibraltar Police says anyone found to have crossed into Spain in breach of the bail conditions will be arrested, investigated and brought before the courts. The RGP says it is common practice to place people wanted for serious offences or subject to travel orders on different types of watch lists. The removal of routine checks at Gibraltar's land frontier has raised questions over how defendants ordered not to leave the jurisdiction will be monitored. GBC asked whether people subject to bail restrictions, arrest warrants or foreign travel orders are placed on real-time alert systems, accessible to officers in Gibraltar and, where appropriate, the Spanish authorities. The RGP said it was common practice for law enforcement agencies to place people wanted for serious offences or subject to travel orders and other warning markers on different types of watch lists. Asked how quickly someone who crossed into Spain in breach of bail could be located, arrested and returned, the force said this could not be answered with certainty. The RGP also said the identification of people wanted abroad or considered to present a serious safeguarding risk relied on the exchange of intelligence between law enforcement agencies locally, regionally and internationally. The questions also have relevance following the conviction of former teacher and scout leader Clayton Busto, who was granted bail while awaiting sentencing. His bail conditions were not stated in open court. GBC has asked the Gibraltar courts for details, but the request was referred to the registrar and a response has not yet been received. It is therefore not publicly known whether Busto is prohibited from leaving Gibraltar. Spain's largest union of national police officers has criticised aspects of the treaty and is calling on the Spanish government to review its operational arrangements. Hupol says the deal limits how Spanish officers can carry out Schengen checks at Gibraltar's port and airport.
Spain's largest national police union has called for the treaty to be reviewed, claiming it hands too much control of the Schengen border arrangements to the UK and Gibraltar. Hupol, or Justicia Policial, says the new border controls limits the operational powers of Spanish police officers. and raises questions over Spain's ability to exercise full control of what has become the European Union's external Schengen border at Gibraltar's port and airport. In a statement, the police union describes the arrangements as an inadmissible concession of Spain's border responsibilities and argues they create what it calls a legal, operational and sovereignty anomaly. One of Hupol's principal objections concerns the practical operation of border checks at Gibraltar's port. It claims passengers will be transported by British authorities and that Spanish police officers carrying out Schengen checks will be required to work in plain clothes and within designated areas determined by Gibraltar's authorities. The union also alleges that Spanish officers will be accompanied by British authorities when moving through the facilities, arguing that these conditions are incompatible with Spain exercising its responsibilities as the member state responsible for Schengen controls. Although the agreement formally recognises that Spain will conduct Schengen checks, Hupol argues that the operational arrangements significantly limit the autonomy of Spanish officers in carrying out those duties. The police union has also warned that the current arrangements could pave the way for a greater role for Frontex, the European Border and Coast Guard Agency, if Spain is deemed not to be exercising its responsibilities fully. Hupol says that this could eventually result in European agencies assuming the operational management of the borders at Gibraltar, reducing the role of Spain's Policía Nacional and Guardia Civil. The Spanish police union is now calling on the Spanish government to immediately review the operational provisions of the treaty and has criticised what it describes as a lack of information provided to officers since the arrangements came into effect on the 15th of July.
And further administrative issues have emerged in Spain following the implementation of the treaty. Trade unions representing frontier workers say some have encountered difficulties claiming unemployment benefits and are calling on the Spanish authorities to clarify the situation.
Spanish trade union Comisiones Obreras and the Association of Spanish Workers in Gibraltar, ASTEG, say some frontier workers have experienced problems applying for unemployment benefits in Spain since the treaty was implemented. They maintain the arrangements agreed between Spain and the UK should guarantee access to those benefits and are asking Spain's Public Employment Service to resolve the issue. The organisations are calling for the necessary instructions to be issued as soon as possible in order to avoid further uncertainty for affected workers.
You're watching GBC News. Still to come, the Transport Ministry on rules around cross-border taxis and enforcement. And vet Mark Pizarro has advice on how to keep our pets safe as temperatures rise this summer. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stay with us.
The moments that matter don't wait for Wi-Fi. From sharing big news instantly to streaming your favourite shows on the go, your connection should always be there. That's why we've made our pay monthly plans bigger, giving you more data at the same price, so nothing gets in the way of staying close to what matters most. Visit gibtele.com or call 200 52200 to sign up.
Looking for insurance that covers every part of your life? From your car, home and motorbike to your health, pets, boat and travel, we've got it all covered. We make insurance simple, clear and tailored to you. Visit us at 68 Irish Town, Monday to Friday 9 to 5:30 or Saturdays 10 till 2. Call 200 44628 or email gibraltar@ibexinsure.com. Ibex Insurance, making life easier.
Fill up, top up and let's go. The new GibFuel Plus loyalty app is here. Earn loyalty points every time you shop or refuel at Cepsa Gibraltar, Carrefour Express Gibraltar and all the Gibraltar petrol stations. Just sign up, scan your QR code, collect points and redeem rewards. Download the GibFuel Plus app at gibfuelplus.com and start your journey today. Welcome to The Corner Shop, where expectations in painting and decorating go above and beyond, providing the community colour since 1947. From DIY enthusiasts to professional decorators, we offer trusted brands like Dulux, Armstead, Hammerite and more. Explore our expert colour mixing centre, plus DIY and decorating supplies. The Corner Shop, free parking and free delivery.
If you have employees, then you have HR and payroll. And the computer software you use makes all the difference. EasyPay has been specifically designed to meet the needs of businesses in Gibraltar, whatever the size. For a free demonstration, call 200 741 21 and find out more online at easypay.gi.
Trident is EORI ready for Gibraltar's new logistical chapter. As customs-approved transport and clearance agents with proven experience, trust Trident to keep your goods moving. Providing door-to-door transport, temperature-controlled services, warehousing, and customs clearances. Trust the experts, delivering since 1989.
Our world runs on momentum. From the first light over the rock to the plans we make for the days ahead, each moment carries us forward. For 150 years, Gibraltar Insurance has moved with that energy. Rooted in Gibraltar, reaching the wider world, built on the past, and looking to the future, wherever momentum takes you next. Gibraltar Insurance will be by your side, every step of the way.
There's been a change of command at the naval base. We say goodbye to outgoing Commander British Forces, Commodore Tom Guy, and welcome his successor, Commodore Tim Davey, to the Rock.
There's an awful lot for us to do, of course, in the context in which we are operating here as UK Ministry of Defence, supporting the people of Gibraltar and the Governor of Gibraltar. That is the focus, and obviously upholding the sovereignty of Gibraltar. So there's an awful lot of work to do. As Commodore Tom said to me as he departed, this is very much a work in progress. I think it always will be, but we're up for the challenge, and I know there's a brilliant team here supporting me.
Welcome back. The Transport Ministry has sought to reassure taxi drivers that Spanish taxis and private hire vehicles are not allowed to cross into Gibraltar under any circumstances. It follows news that the first fixed penalty notice has been issued to a Spanish taxi driver since the new treaty arrangements came into effect. Stuart Harrison says new measures will be enforced at the border going forward. He told Kellyanne Borge that the safety of Gibraltarian passengers was the ministry's main concern, while acknowledging the service locally could be improved.
There are too many grey areas on our side to start allowing unvetted drivers taking Gibraltarians home. And to obviously the law is very clear, and it doesn't actually allow taxis to cross from Spain. Any taxis to work in Gibraltar are under license. The same is reciprocated. Gibraltar taxis cannot do a drop-off in Spain either. And obviously you can imagine that taxi drivers in Gibraltar would feel very hard done by, and that they're losing their actual trade by allowing others into the market, which is unregulated.
There have been comments on our social media claiming that taxi drivers are among those who offer shuttle services to Malaga Airport, for example. There are several who advertise online their services. So what's the ministry's view on this?
That's something that they're committing a crime in another country. That's at their own risk. And if they were providing a taxi service in Spain and they were stopped by the authorities there, that's for them to deal with, the same as we are dealing with Spanish taxi drivers on this side, and we obviously we're upping the enforcement. Again, it works both ways. Again, it's anyone's risk to commit a crime in another country. It's not the ministry's.
Are there plans in particular for nighttime services in Gibraltar to be improved?
The plan is obviously to increase the number of taxis available, and then obviously we'll look at the means and whatever needs to be done in terms of law changes to ensure the service is there for the public. That is what we're going to do.
You mentioned earlier about vetting taxi drivers and having that control over who's operating. Would it be an issue or a possibility in the future that perhaps if something like Uber were introduced, that those drivers could also be vetted? and go through the same process?
You need to have a red ID card to even become a taxi driver in the first place. Also, as well, in terms of the vetting, now we do have people who weren't born in Gibraltar who come in taxi drivers. That's not a problem. We changed the policy last year to actually ask for vetting from all their countries that they've actually lived in, not just the one in Gibraltar. And actually, more than one has been found to have a criminal record in a different country, and we have removed their PSV license because of that. Again, it's all great, and we look at this as more drivers, and it's going to be a great service, but the safety aspect is always at the front of the ministry's mind. We recognise that tax service can be better. I think we're working really hard to improve that service, and also the reassurance to all taxi drivers out there that the government is not in any position to actually start allowing airfares to come into Gibraltar in any way. Again, we're going to actually increase the level of fineage. We're changing the law to actually increase the fine that will be given to anyone who is doing taxi service in Gibraltar illegally. Taxi drivers in particular can be quite reassured that their trade is not going to be affected by the treaty.
Tonight, Glasgow opens its arms to the Commonwealth Games. Around 3,000 athletes from 74 nations and territories will take part, though it's a slimmed-down affair this time, just 10 sports on the programme. Gibraltar's among those marching out this evening.
Gibraltar's Commonwealth Games contingent are in Glasgow. 17 athletes have made the trip, competing across athletics, boxing, judo, swimming and weightlifting. This year's games have been scaled back, with Glasgow hosting 10 sports compared to 20 in Birmingham last time, meaning regulars like cycling, triathlon, shooting and squash miss out, but it's opened the door for Gibraltar to compete in judo and boxing for the first time. Jordan Gonzalez has been named flag bearer for the opening ceremony, which gets underway very shortly at 9. He said being selected as flag bearer is an incredible honour and one of the proudest moments of my sporting career. And weightlifter Holly O'Shea, who qualified via her Commonwealth rankings, will carry the baton, one bearing a tribute to her late brother Sam, who competed for Gibraltar in cycling at Birmingham. She said carrying the baton into the opening ceremony is an incredible honour, but doing so with Sam by my side makes it deeply emotional.
Tourette syndrome is a neurological condition that affects approximately 300,000 people in the UK. The more noticeable symptoms are involuntary motor and vocal tics, but people with the condition can also struggle with anxiety and depression. As part of Disability Pride Month, we spoke to Raymond Riso, a local man who lives with Tourette's. Kellyanne Borge asked him how he felt when he got his diagnosis.
For me, it was really upsetting. I really got upset, and obviously it was a life changer for me. Because my tics went that bad before COVID hit. But then, once from COVID onwards, that's when the severity of my tics really got worse and worse. So from the diagnosis onwards, I had different types of medications as in trials. But unfortunately, I suffer a lot from fatigue as a result of Tourette's. So the medication I was having, it would have a negative effect on me. So there were times where I couldn't even get out of bed. So I started getting depression. So they stopped the medication. And that's where, when I was referred to UK, that's when they said there's this procedure called deep brain stimulation. So I was a perfect candidate for that.
And how did that help?
Well, deep brain stimulation is a very slow process because there's a lot of tweaking involved. Basically, it's remote programming, which is done in the UK. So it's basically they increase the amperage by about 0.2, and that's basically not much. So that would take a lot of time before it started noticing results.
So it's a slow process.
It's a very slow process. It could take between 6 months to a year for me to start noticing results. There's no cure for Tourette's. However, what the procedure does is it reduces the severity of tics, and that gives me a better quality of life.
We have to say good afternoon to Priscilla, who's been in touch. She says, well done, Raymond, for making your disability public. She says you're very brave.
It's the middle of summer and we've all been feeling the heat, but spare a thought too for your pets. Vet Mark Pizarro is once again advising pet owners of how best to make life easier for their furry friends in the hot summer days.
It's a scorcher again, and while we have shoes, our pets don't. So be mindful what time of the day you take them out for walks due to hot pavements, and also don't leave your pets in hot cars. For many years, we've been speaking to vet Mark Bisato about how best to look after your pets in the hot summer months. But it's advice worth repeating.
Well, primarily is you've got to be very careful when you walk your animals, when you take them out. Just because, remember, the animals have a thick coat, so therefore they can't thermoregulate same as we can. So if they were to go out in the middle of the heat, and although you might be okay for that period of walk, it might be too hot for the animal and you can get heat stroke very easily. Certain breeds are more predisposed to it, like a brachycephalics, the short-snouted breeds, but you've got to be very careful. Also remember that the dogs don't have shoes. So if it's really hot and the floor is parched and really dry and hot, you can burn the pads. So you've really got to use careful judgment.
And is this primarily the time of year when a lot of people get their dogs looked into for injections, for jabs against particular insects? Is that something that comes with the summer months as well? Should they have done so already by now?
At this time of year, yeah, you've got to start. As soon as the temperature at night goes above 14, 15 degrees, then you've got to start protecting against mosquitoes, sandfly, which can spread diseases, ticks and fleas as well. So therefore, yeah, this time of year the vectors, the insects are more prevalent, they're more all over the place, so therefore you had to give extra protection to your animal. Just because you don't see a flea on your dog doesn't mean that your dog doesn't have fleas. It's because, that's I get a lot from a lot of clients. They think that their dog doesn't have fleas. So if you live in such a tight urban environment that we live in, where your contact with animals is considerable, then your risk of contracting or picking up a vector is like a flea is high.
And when it comes to dogs, if you're out and about, make sure you walk them early in the morning or late in the evening, and make sure you have enough water on you. It's important to keep a cool environment for all our fluffy best friends, from dogs to cats, rabbits to gerbils.
Well, remember, air conditioning is quite a modern affair, so therefore you don't necessarily need air conditioning for those animals, but you need is ventilation. Ventilation and shade, that's a paramount, because you need to have airflow. If you can't have airflow through your house because the air is quite stagnant, then get yourself a fan. That is essential, yeah. Air conditioning, neither here nor there, I don't think it's a big issue. Unless obviously we have a heat wave. But normal circumstances, normal summer here, a fan and ventilation and shade is ample.
So enjoy the summer, but be responsible. It's important to keep your animals cool and safe from the hot sun.
Well, that's all from the GBC News team for now. Remember, you can always catch up on our website and social media pages. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Good evening. A hazy day of sunshine, and there's more of that to come tomorrow. High pressure sitting out to the west of us. It's been sitting here for a while. It's been bringing plenty of fine weather across the UK. Signs of a change here, though, as a weather front approaches a low pressure system, bringing some showery rain to Poland today. That is sinking slowly southwards, and we will see a few more showers through this evening and overnight along the east coast of Italy. But for most of the Mediterranean, the weather's fine.